It is May 5th, 2019. Happy Cinco de Mayo. It is episode number 1 of the Mo Banter podcast. I am Mo. This is episode number 1. I'm really old at this point in my life, or at least I feel really old, but there's a lot of opinions that I like to share and I want to share and I want to put out there just because you never know who else may agree with your opinions and wants to say something similar but just doesn't really have the gall to say it. And I believe in this world we withhold a lot of our opinions way too fucking much because we're scared that we're going to offend somebody. And secondly, there's nothing wrong with withholding your opinion if you're going to offend somebody, but at the same time, don't feel 100% bad for having an opinion. Now, there are opinions on certain actions that are unacceptable, and maybe throughout the course of a podcast or people emailing, we can kind of discover that and amongst ourselves and see where this kind of goes. But I felt that a podcast would be fun to kind of do just in the sake of just doing it. This is not for money. This is not for fame. This is not really for anything else. I just like to talk, and having spoken with a lot of people throughout my life, throughout my career at different situations and different scenarios, I always like to chat with people, and I feel like this would give me an opportunity to chat with people from across the nation, across the world. And if you have some sort of questions, please feel free to hit me up, or if you have a topic that you would like me to discuss in future episodes, hit me up at mobantopodcast@gmail.com. That's MOEBANTERPODCAST@gmail.com. That's Mo Banter Podcast at gmail.com. And, we can talk about anything, man. Nothing's really taboo. The only thing that I will say is taboo is my personal sex life with my wife. She has nothing to do with this, and she supports me doing a podcast. But at the same time, our life is our life, and I will not talk about our life together. I will share some tidbits here and there when something cool happens. Like it was her birthday on the 2nd. Happy birthday. We've been together 15 years. This is the 16th birthday I've been able to celebrate with her, and every year it just gets better and better, believe it or not. Wasn't always great, but we reached that point where it's pretty fantastic, and a lot of work went in on both sides, and it's a great thing. So with those introductions and everything else out of the way, let's kind of go where I would want this podcast to go, since it is the first one. This is not anything that's strictly political. That's not strictly, like off topics. But this is going to cover a lot of topics because I have a lot of interest. Like I love beer. I love drinking in general. Game of Thrones. I love gaming. I'm a QA analyst. Have been in the industry. Started off as a QA tester. Have been in the industry for 13 years. Worked on a lot of big titles. I worked on 3 Call of Duty titles. I worked on a couple other ones here and there. Again, if you guys want more, you guys can probably just, Google my real name and it'll probably pop up. If not, just ask and we can cover that. But yeah, it's going to cover a lot of things. Football, maybe politics. I try to stay out of that just because politics is kind of iffy and kind of like people get really upset about that. Similar with religion, which I also have strong opinions about. But again, that's withholding the opinion, not because I'm scared of what. It's just, like I'm not in a position to tell people how to live their lives. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be a Republican, be a Republican. If you want to be a Democrat, be a Democrat. I don't care. It doesn't affect my day-to-day in any way whatsoever. Same thing. If you want to be Catholic, you want to be Christian, you want to be Jewish. If you want, it doesn't really bother me, man. Just do your own thing, but don't try to push that towards me. That's kind of where I draw the line on a lot of things. If you want to live your life a certain way, live your life a certain way, man. But don't come at me with that. And right now, the only plan is to kind of have this podcast delivered on SoundCloud. There really isn't any plans for me to kind of expand it to like an empire or anything else. Like no Spotify, no whatever. Right now it's just SoundCloud just because it's free. And there's going to be like a kind of bootleg ass video of the podcast on YouTube, and it will be under the Cornbeaner channel, which is an old alias of mine. And if you guys are interested in the origins of that, short story, but I've repeated it a few times, and if you guys are interested on the podcast, I can do that as well. But YouTube is not one of those things where I wanna. I've been partners with YouTube before, and after some changes that they made, I think like June or July of last year, I lost that partnership. So I really don't care. And plus, being partnered on YouTube now is kind of a mess, man. You have something that's super long and they run ads every 5-10 minutes. It just breaks up the flow, whatever it is you're trying to watch on YouTube. Like YouTube is such a it's such a unique platform for what it could provide and what it did provide compared to what it is now. Um, Same thing with a lot of other platforms, which I'm not going to mention by names. But anyways, I think that kind of covers a lot of the basis of what this is. And I spent 5 minutes talking about myself. So I didn't know exactly what I would do in my first episode. So I'm probably going to keep it a little bit more on the geeky side today. So what I will be talking about, because today is Sunday Cinco de Mayo, and episode number 4 of Game of Thrones is coming out, is episode 3. So spoiler alerts. This is the Battle of Winterfell. If you have not heard or seen the Battle of Winterfell and you want to see it, I'm not going to release any spoilers at all, but there's going to be certain things that I talk about. I kind of don't want you to feel like I said something that ruined that episode for you, and that would probably be the second topic that we touch on after the fact. But anyways, episode 3, what I want to talk about is not even about what happened, how it occurred. I loved the episode. I thought the episode was amazing. I really, really thought the episode was fantastic. And some of the gripes that I heard about it were, I guess, justified in a way, but at the same time, as you have to understand the pacing and the flow, and at the same time kind of view it in a way where you have to suspend reality just a bit in order for that entire moment to be realistic. And I know it's like the dumbest thing to say, where you have to suspend reality to accept reality. But that's kind of how this episode played out. And I'll leave it at that. The thing that I want to talk about is actually the production of the episode. Because a lot of people were bitching and complaining that the episode was too dark. That, I couldn't see nothing, and I couldn't, like the blacks were all washed out, and this and that. And this comes down to a few things. One, when a lot of these things happened, everybody was trying to stream Game of Thrones. Like, from, I think, like 6 Pacific time, 9 Eastern. Yeah, I think that's when it pops off. I've never actually seen it, like, at the hour that it pops off. I have the app, so, I can watch Game of Thrones after it goes live whenever I want. But, there's this window, which is pretty much the whole first day that it's available, that you're going to run into streaming problems. HBO is a massive company. A lot of companies are massive companies. No company is going to just open up servers, open up instances where they can stream the most high-res version of Game of Thrones. Everybody is about the profit margins, and having servers and having streamer and having like stream capable streaming compatibilities opened up and accelerated for a small window costs money. And to be honest, companies are not gonna they're gonna balance their bottom end besides your happiness when it comes to what's available. If you can stream it, even at a low quality, without buffering, that's their end goal. I believe that. Don't know if it's actually true, but prove me wrong. Anyways, so as people were streaming, they're complaining that it's too dark. I couldn't see what was going on and what was happening. And then I read a story on one of the, I want to say it's one of like the Geek Time magazines, but I can't remember which one's, like Wired or some other one. I can't remember. It was on Facebook. It was a link on Facebook, and even part of my Google feed on my phone. And they said one of the mistakes that the directors and editors and everyone made was that most likely when they were editing the episode or even just viewing the episode that they were in this fancy room and they had like the best TVs available and they were able to black out the entire room and therefore they would get the best experience, and that wasn't the best way to kind of determine if this was ready for the prime time, because most people watch their TV with a light blasting on it and they don't have the ability to black out, and most likely they won't have the best TV available to produce the deeper blacks that would have looked really good in this episode for most people. And yeah, that's probably what happened. Like that's they made this episode, they started editing stuff and they started tweaking the colors and they started they started looking at the episode and go, damn, this looks fucking crisp. Like this looks really, really good. And that's how they should do it. The thing that bothers me about the complaints is not so much that the complaints occur, because I understand it. It's that, and this is the term that I don't think makes any sense, but it seems to happen a lot, and I'm far from this kind of like status in my life, and I mean like super far, like I'm not even fucking close. People rich shame a lot. Like it seems that if you have money, if you have a way to make money, people shame you for that. And I don't quite understand it. Now, what do I mean by that is that a lot of signs, a lot of stresses in life, a lot of complaints in life come because you are unable to experience something the way that somebody would with money could. And you bitch about it. And I understand it. You wish you could do that. Then do something about it. Do something about it. Stop bitching. Stop complaining. Don't rely on stories that are on the internet. Don't rely on a band of people to share that same experience with you. Now, that is not to say that I don't believe in increased minimum wage, that I don't believe in being able to work for you to have a place to live, for you to have a place to eat, for you to have things in your life. If you work for it, if you work a 40-hour job, I don't care what the 40-hour job is, I believe you should have the most basic abilities in life, even rights in life, to have a place to live and to have food in your stomach every day. Those are the two basic things I think you would need if you work a 40-hour job. A place to live and enough money for you to eat. Now, when it comes to everything else, it's up to you to make it happen. And we can talk about that another time because it's about Game of Thrones. Now, anyways, so the first thought that came to my mind was that the directors, the producers, everybody else who watched the episode watched it with a $20,000-$30,000 projector screen, or even just like a dope TV that us consumers don't get, in a blacked out room with recliners that were black leather, maybe like silent massage, because having somebody go while the episode is playing is going to be distracting. And then they had like the dopest sound system, like 20 speakers in one room, and you just kind of feel the shock of everything, just kind of like penetrating your ribs. But the thought that HBO and the producers and directors and creators of Game of Thrones owed it to the viewing public to take the least common denominator into account when producing this episode so that everybody could no. Why should HBO, why should the director of Game of Thrones, why should anybody in the production staff or even anybody who has a stake in the production of Game of Thrones have to settle for a lower quality image of their vision so that the vast majority of Americans could, quote unquote, enjoy it? I saw the episode like everybody else. I don't have a fancy TV. I have a TCL, like China made. I believe like this TV now is like 4 or 5 years old. So like a lot of the things are rather old. It doesn't produce the deepest blacks. It produces pretty good whites. I enjoyed the episode. I had no problems with it. Like, did it look kind of grainy? A little bit. I assumed it's because of the way that we streamed. Because we streamed it during, like the peak hours. I believe we started streaming like at 6:30, which is like 30 minutes after it became available. But I enjoyed the episode. The episode was super, super hype. Like, it started off a little bit slow, and I thought it was gonna end, and I was like, this is really like the biggest battle, because they were taunting this battle to be, or they were proclaiming this battle to be big, like the biggest battle scene in television history. And to all of its credit, it actually did produce that. And it didn't always seem that way, but it did become that, which was like amazing. And I had no complaints about it. As soon as I saw the story, I started thinking about it, and I go, you know what? Yeah, it did kind of look like I couldn't see anything, but I thought that was done on purpose, because you're essentially fighting death when it comes to this episode. Like, that's the way I view this entire battle. It is like the battle at Winterfell was essentially the living battling death. You don't see death coming. What you see is the end. You see death after it has struck. You don't see death while it struck, or while it's striking. And that's kind of how I view the whole episode. And it didn't bother me at all that it looked kind of grainy, that it looked kind of washed out, that it didn't look as dark, or the blacks didn't produce. Like, none of it actually bothered me at all. But yet people are complaining, and you have like legit publications coming out here talking about, oh, they should have done this. And it's no. Why do we do that as a society? Why do we expect the creators of our entertainment to bend to our will? We watch it because we're entertained. We started watching these things because they are producing something that entertains us. Why do we feel that we have the right to dictate or to tell like the creators of this content how to produce the show that they're producing? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, think about it in the smallest of scales. Like, if you're a parent, because I'm a parent, I'm a parent to a 14-year-old teenager. My wife cooks all the time. Well, not all the time, but she cooks like 80% of the time. We split the cooking when it comes down to it, because there's some things that she likes that like only I can make, or she likes the way that I make it. So I'll come down on some steaks and some shredded beef and some other stuff that I make. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have no problem cooking. And that's another episode. But like, my wife cooks. And when she cooks, it's bomb. It's delicious. Like, like, no matter what it is, her spaghetti, whatever the case may be, it is bomb. I've never complained about her cooking. Secondly, unless something came, like, that she made was maybe a little bit too salty, or maybe overly sweet, or just kind of had something, like, I would let her know, like, hey, baby, this was a little bit salty, like, I just want you to know. And that's kind of where it would go. It would stop there. You know what I mean? Like, it would be like, hey, baby, this was salty. Just so she knows for next time, hey, to kind of cut down the salt, and I can kind of put my own salt, you know what I'm saying? But if she's going to cook for me, I'm not going to tell her how to cook. I'm not going to be like, hey, baby, this is really salty. You should have just put, like 2 pinches instead of 2 tablespoons, or, whatever the measurement would have been. Like, why do I have to start breaking down? She's cooking for me. She's cooking for my kids. She's cooking for us. Why is it that I would even try to tell her how to produce what she's making for me? She's cooking for me. She's taking the time out of her life to keep me fed, to keep my son fed, to keep us fed. What the fuck gives me the right to tell her how to make the food that she's feeding me? I have no right to do that if she's willing to do that for me. If I don't like what she cooks, fuck it, I'll cook my damn self. That's simple. And that's how I viewed this. Is that they're in the kitchen cooking up these battle scenes, cooking up the scenarios, cooking up how this is going to look. And the end result is the end result. Now, if you didn't like the fact that the blacks produced on your TV sucked, get a new TV or deal with it. It's like when you go to a restaurant. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you have some options at a restaurant. Hey, I want the pico de gallo on the side. Hey, I want the chili on the side. Hey, I want stuff on the side. Or, you know what, just don't give it to me. That's cool. Those things come in variables. Those things come in packages. They come in a way where you can ask for that. Once an episode is done, an episode is done. It's been produced. It's been completed. It's whatever. It's done. It's a cake. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't get no strawberry cake and be like, hey, take the strawberries out. Like, it's a cake. You know what I'm saying? They baking. They're not cooking at this point. They baking. They done cooking. They baking. So if that's the case, eat what was baked or eat something else. Don't bitch about it. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it. Cool, have that opinion. You didn't like the episode because of this. That's fine. But don't start making it a big deal that they should have done this. No. Don't do that. And to kind of bleed into that, I noticed that with like the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Now, I haven't really seen the trailer. I kind of just saw the memes because of certain things, and it kind of made me think about this whole scenario. Is like, look, I grew up in a generation where Sonic the Hedgehog was kind of like a big thing. You know, early 90s, mid 90s. You know, this Sonic was supposed to be a cooler version of a platform character because Mario was the only one that was out there, and the only way Mario would be fast in games would be if you would hold down the sprint button or the B button at the time. B button, yeah, it's all B button. I think Super Nintendo still had B button, might have been Y as well. But anyways, you know what I'm saying? So Sonic was like the character that didn't need a stupid button. All you gotta do is press forward, and eventually he ramp up and he just take off. If you wanted him to go faster, you hold down and you press the buttons, and he would grind up and he would rev up like a car and bounce, and he'd have a bigger burst of speed. Is he iconic? I'm gonna say so. For me, he's pretty iconic as far as the terms of what started the console wars. You know, like, you wanted either a Genesis or Super Nintendo based on the characters that you liked. You thought Mario was kind of fat and slow and kind of boring. Cool, you had Sonic. He was fast. He was quick. You know, he could run through shit. He can run over people. Like he was a hip character. He was a new up and comer, and that kind of started the whole console wars as we see it. So apparently they're making a movie out of it. Trailer is out. Look it up. Has Jim Carrey in it, and people are not satisfied with the way Sonic looks. I looked at him and I was like, doesn't really kind of look like Sonic to me. I can kind of see where they're going with it. It kind of looked like the Grinch's blue cousin. You ever seen The Grinch, which was also a Jim Carrey movie? Or even just The Grinch in general. Like, if you slimmed him down and gave him like a small blue cousin, it would look like the current version of Sonic the Hedgehog. Well, anyways, people complained, which is unsurprising. People complained, and now we're being told by the director, the creators, that there are going to be changes made to the Sonic design. I don't know how you can change something that's already been seen and then expect people to not compare it and then either tear it down further. Because this is what's going to happen is you're going to change it to what people think Sonic should look like. It's still not going to look like how Sonic should probably look like in these people's eyes. And then you're going to get torn down for it. So at the end of the day, I think what's going to happen is the current version of Sonic that you see now is going to be the final version. They're going to release another one. Maybe not even a trailer, just kind of a new image. And they probably already have one. And it's going to be terrible. It's going to look awful. It's going to look like you expect a video game Hedgehog to look. And it's going to be awful. It's going to be terrible. It's going to look awful. And they're just going to go back to original design. Because the design that they skipped on to have this particular one that people don't seem to like was probably worse. Which is why they went with this design. Because I'm pretty sure they did the focus testing and they had people watch trailers and they had people watch these designs. They're like, this character looks awful. He looks like whatever it is that he would look like. They're like, oh yeah, we can't go with this one. We're going to go with the other one. So somewhere out there lies a second version of Sonic that you're looking for. And it probably looks like ass. But why do we complain so much about it? Why is it that we have like don't watch it. Don't watch the movie. If that character's design bothers you to the point where like it's gonna ruin your entertainment for the movie, just don't watch it. Shut up and just don't watch it. It's that simple. Don't go pay $13. Don't go pay $18 for a ticket. Don't pay $20 on Blu-ray. Like if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. Why do you go online and start bitching about, oh, this character? Like, who cares? Don't watch the movie. It's that simple. Life could be that simple. If you chose to just ignore made up negativity in your life. And what I mean by made up negativity is like, look, people go through shit. Everybody goes through shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I go through shit. And I gotta deal with it. I don't go online and try to promote negativity. Like, yeah, you know, there'll be some times on Facebook, and because my Facebook group is kind of small, only of people that I've really spoken to, like in depth most of the times, you know, through work and whatnot, that I'll post something on there just so I can feel some love, or just so I can kind of vent. That's my soundboard. Facebook is my soundboard. You know what I'm saying? Like if something bad's going on, I just post it on there really quick and just because I might want to feel some love. And I don't even care where it comes from. You know what I'm saying? Because my wife, my kid, they always support me. They always love me, you know. But sometimes you kind of need like the outside love. You just need somebody to say, hey, man, I'll be cool. And that's going to be a different episode. You know what I'm saying? So like everybody goes through shit, and I get it. But why is it that when things like movies or music or whatever, and I learned this lesson because again, I'm old. I'm 36 years old, and I've been through all these phases, and I want to prevent people from going through these phases, or at least kind of think about why they want to put this out there in the world. But like, if you don't like an album, if you don't like something, if you don't like a movie, you don't like a design, you know what? Give your opinion. I'm not saying stay hush. I'm not saying stay hush. You know what I'm saying? If something is bothering you, it doesn't matter how small it is, and you feel like you need to express it, express it. Express it. Be out there be like, I hate the way Sonic looks. Done. You don't need to go any further. You don't need to go. If somebody wants to respond to that comment with some other negative bullshit and call you a child and call you entitled, call you whatever, you then have the option. Let it go. Who cares? Just like you have your opinion. If you put your opinion out there on the internet, people are going to have an opinion about your opinion. And then you're going to have opinion about that opinion. And that's fine if it leads to a discussion. If it leads to actual talking, actual conversation about something, even if the end result winds up being the same, where your opinion doesn't change and the other person's opinions or other people's opinions do not change, that's fine. You have to learn to accept that. You have to learn to accept that your opinion is your opinion, and people are going to have opinions about your opinion, especially if you put it online, and vice versa. There's going to be somebody out there that has an opinion that you don't agree with, and you can have an opinion on their opinion and leave it at that. Realize that you're two fundamentally different people, and not everybody's going to be all hunky-dory. Why is it that on the internet there's a need to prove your opinion? If it's your opinion, it's your opinion. You can discuss your opinion. You can discuss why. Once it stops being productive, once it stops being a talking point and becomes a proving point, then there's no point to have that discussion, that conversation, that interaction anymore. Just accept it and move on. Why are you going to let something so negative affect your life day to day? Something that's meant to bring you joy, whether it be Game of Thrones, Sonic the Hedgehog, any movie, any album, whatever the case may be. Look, man, there's a lot of music out there. There's a lot of movies out there. There's a lot of shows out there. There's a lot of everything out there that I personally don't like, that I don't care about. Star Wars, Star Trek, you know, Captain America. Iron Man. Like I don't like these characters. I don't like, and I've said that. I've said as much, and I say my piece. If you want to ask me why, I'll tell you why. But if you are asking me why to convince me why I'm wrong, I don't want to deal with that shit. Why do I gotta deal with it? I don't want to. I've said my piece and I'm cool with it. If you're not cool with it, that seems like a you problem, not a me problem. That's a you problem. Deal with it. We're gonna be different people. You know what I'm saying? I like Spider-Man. I like Hulk. Those are my two favorite ones. Wolverine. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I like Wolverine is because of that scene. If you're old enough, you'll see the X-Men cartoon. Or you would have watched the X-Men cartoon. X-Men. You know what I'm saying? There's this scene where like they're battling Sentinels and Wolverine just comes out, "This is for you, Morph," and he just like slashes on the Sentinel. I was like, damn, I like that character, man. So dope. And that's like one of the most iconic lines in my head that I always think about. Like when something gets super tough sometimes, but I want to be kind of silly about it just because I'm kind of stressed. That's all I think about. This is for you, Morph. And in my head, I just like I'm slashing the Sentinel. So, like, and those are the type of characters that I like, and for me, Marvel is better than DC. But, when it comes to, like, overall, like, all-time favorite characters or whatnot, like, to me, I love Joker and I love Harley Quinn. It's, like, in my head, Mark Hamill is the Joker. Whenever I read something about the Joker, I think about the Joker, I hear the Joker in my mind. I always hear Mark Hamill. He's not Luke Skywalker to me. He's Mark. He's the Joker. Harley Quinn, love Harley Quinn, the character, and to me those are the only characters in the DC universe that I'm gonna say like I truly love. You know what I'm saying? And why I love them doesn't really matter. I love them because I love those characters. I genuinely love those characters. I'm not like a super fanatic about them, but I just like on YouTube you can look it up. Like, this is my shirt right here. Like, you know what I'm saying? This is like one of my wife's favorite movies with Joker and Harley. So basically, for anybody that doesn't want to come to YouTube and look in like 32 minutes in, I just showed my shirt, and basically it's the scene from Lady and the Tramp where they're eating spaghetti. And anybody who's seen that movie, it's a very iconic scene with the Joker and Harley in place of Tramp and Lady, and that's how much I love the characters. Like that's one of my wife's favorite movies, and like the characters mean something to me, but the movie means something to her. So like I meshed them up, and that's kind of how that goes. But like those characters I generally love. I don't like Batman. I don't like Superman. I think Superman is one of the most boring ass characters ever. And then most of the DC universe I just find extremely boring. Like I don't know. I don't know what it is about that particular universe. I just find extremely boring. But those are my opinions. You know what I'm saying? If you don't like it, if you think, oh, Batman is awesome, that's cool. You can think Batman is awesome. I have no problem with people thinking Batman is awesome. He's just not a character for me. Same thing with Superman. If you think Superman is awesome because he means this to you, that's cool, man. That's awesome. That's great. Have these characters mean something to you. And that's everything. But why is it that we have to like, no, that's not the way it goes. That's not the way it looks. No, you're wrong. And there's that thing that kind of builds up, because as soon as you start telling people that they're wrong and they don't agree with you, you start telling everybody that they're wrong and they don't agree if they don't agree with you. And that's not a good mentality to have. So if we want to discuss this more, we can discuss this more. But that's kind of where I'm at, man. It's like, look, man, your opinion is your opinion. That's cool. Share it with me if you want. I have no problem sharing opinions. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong unless... Look, man, there's certain things that people are going to have opinions about that I'm going to say that are extremely black and white with me. With me. And I understand that aspect of it. I understand that prospect of it. I won't discuss those things. And what those things are, we can go into greater detail later in the podcast or in future episodes, because I will plan to make this at least a bi-weekly thing. There's certain things that with me are black and white. And I don't want to start getting emails about these subjects and why and this and that, because I'm not in that comfortable state where I want to talk about these things. But in general, If you have an opinion that you would like to share, share it. We can talk about it. That's fine. You can even say, hey, I think you're an asshole. That's fine. I understand that. I understand that everybody's going to like me. Not everybody is going to care about me. I understand that people are going to look at me and hear me talk and hear what I have to say and be like, man, that dude's a fucking asshole. Facts. You know what I mean? Facts. Like, I get it. You know what I'm saying? But, man, your opinions are your opinions. Stop trying to push them on other people. Look, man, Game of Thrones episode 3 was hot fire. Or cold ice. However you want to see that. It was great. Sonic doesn't look quite like I want him to look either. But, you know what I'm saying? The movie in general, the concept looks like it'd be kind of cool. So, I might pop off and watch it. I don't care what Sonic looks like. He doesn't look awful. He just doesn't look what I expected him to look like in my mind. If I want it, if I want Sonic to look how it looks, I got two options. Either get a job at the studio where I can influence that, or actually create the version of Sonic that I would want and then try to sell it to somebody and be like, hey, this is the design I have. Would you be able to use them in your movie? But, I mean, for part 2 or, because at this point, that ship has sailed. But, you know what I'm saying? If you're not happy with something, do it your damn self. You know what I'm saying? Go out there and produce season 8, episode 3 of Game of Thrones. Go out there and produce Sonic the Hedgehog movies. You know what I'm saying? Like, the movie that comes to mind is like the Pokemon movie. I look at a lot of those Pokemon, I'm like, man, they don't look anything like I thought they would. I'm still gonna go watch the damn movie because it's fucking Pokemon. But anyways, all right. So, I mean, I'll leave that at that. If you have any follow-ups on YouTube, leave a comment down below. I'll try to get to you. If you want to follow up via email, Mo Banter Podcast, again, MOEBANTERPODCAST@gmail.com. All emails are welcome. If you guys want to talk about something, you want my opinion, something, man, just shoot me a holler, man. I'll try to get to as many as possible. So that was one topic. Let me see, 37. I'm gonna try to go for an hour and see where we at. So I got those, and that was kind of like, I guess, the entertainment portion of the podcast, and I guess since I do want to have a variety, and I do want to get a little bit more personal with this, just because I feel not enough people put their real selves out there, and I kind of want to put myself out there a little bit more. I think it will just help me grow as a person, to be honest. A lot of this podcast is kind of self-fulfillment, and I feel like doing this for myself would be good therapy for myself. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, it's something that I feel that I need to do, and I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like this world has granted me that opportunity, so I'm gonna take advantage of it. Okay, so I guess the real part of it would be, let me see. I have a bunch of topics up here in my little phone, trying to, all right, so you know what? Really quick, let me touch on this midway through. Tiger Woods won the Masters in April. Man, that was fantastic. My kid plays golf. He actually plays golf at the TGR Learning Lab, which is in Anaheim. He's actually met Tiger Woods, and the only reason why my kid was introduced to golf was because when I saw Tiger win, I think I was like 12 or 13 the first time he won the Masters. I wanted to learn the game. So I learned the basics of the game. I was more into the video game aspect of it, Tiger Woods on PS2 or Hot Shots Golf on PS1, PS2, all the way up. Like, that was my son's introduction to golf, was Hot Shots Golf. Out of Bounds, I believe, for the PS Vita, or sorry, for the PS3, and then it was one of the Vita versions. But that was his introduction to golf, and that was just the sport that he picked up on, and then everything kind of worked out where he has great coaches, the coaches at the TGR Learning Lab. He got to meet Tiger Woods, tons of great coaches. He's also with the SCGA Juniors, tons of great coaches there. If you guys are interested in golf and SoCal, if you guys are in Anaheim or within driving distance of Anaheim, I recommend TGR Learning Lab. Fantastic facility. Kids will learn a lot. They don't just provide golf. They provide lessons like computer programming, science, forensics. Like, they do classes there that are there to help kids kind of see more. and it's a great thing. And if you're strictly into the golf, SCGA is always throwing tournaments, always showing kids the rules of golf, explaining to them the beauty of the game. And those are the two organizations that I can't speak any more highly of than I would want to. Like, honestly, like, if I won the lottery, both organizations would be getting fat ass checks from me. But yeah, Tiger Woods winning the Masters, that was crazy. I never thought I would even see that again or much hear that. It touched me, man. I remember when he won the first time and he hugged his father, I always wanted to produce something like that for my parents to be happy. And I think my parents are proud of me. At least I hope they are. But I never produced anything of that sort for them. And again, we can touch that on different episodes. But my son does. My son is incredible, and I don't push him the way that I hear stories of Tiger and his dad. You know what I'm saying? I just spit out lines, and if he wants to listen, cool. If he doesn't, you know what? It's his journey. He's gonna have to deal with whatever decisions he makes in his life. But watching Tiger Woods hug his dad at that young age, it's like in my mind. Like, when I think about complete happiness of an achievement, that's what I think about. And then, we come almost 20 years later, a little bit more than that, and he wins. His father has passed and has been passed for a while. But he wins this when nobody gave him a chance after everything that happened in his life, personal drama and stuff, and stuff of his own devices, and he wins. And then he hugs his son. Man, that, as a dad, even though I couldn't provide that moment for my parents, seeing that, I want to provide that moment for my son. I want to complete something and do something in my grown life where I would have achieved something, where I get to hug him and be like, look, man, if you set your dreams, you can always achieve them. Doesn't matter what the age is. Yes, Tiger Woods had won those things before. But at the moment where his kids were born, he wasn't really doing much, except going through personal stuff. To be able to keep doing something that you love and then accomplish something that great with your kids, that has to be the best feeling in the world. I wouldn't know. At least not. That's not how I personally feel that I would know that. Like, I got some cool opportunities. I've done some cool stuff, but I don't think I've ever achieved anything close to like winning a Masters and being able to share that with my kid. And that's kind of where I'm going with right now. Like, I want to achieve something like that. And I guess we talked about Tigers winning the Masters, and it was awesome. It was great, and I don't really have much else to say about that. It's just, it was fantastic, and that was kind of a memory. And talking about my kid, and this will be the last topic of today's podcast, and I have plenty of more. But so, talking about my kid and everything else, since my kid was born, I've always spoken to him and what we hood people like to call real talk. I never Googled him. I never baby talked him. I never treated him like anything less than what he was, which to me was a human. And what do I mean by that is people with pets, even as a kid, even as a kid, we have certain objects, we have certain items, we have certain things in our lives that we baby, that we get cutesy with and stuff like that. I never did that with my son. For multiple reasons. One of the reasons was I didn't want to confuse his speech. I wanted him to understand words from the beginning. I wanted him to start mending. And for anybody who goes, oh, they're babies. No, man. They're not just babies. They're little people. They're little persons. They're little humans. To me, the concept of learning how life is starts at birth. And you're gonna go, but no. There's no such thing as they're just babies. You can look at a lot of the animal kingdom out there, and at the end of the day, we are part of that animal kingdom. We just have the ability to think a little bit more, not really to our benefit all the time, but we have that ability. A baby deer learns how to run within the first like 30 minutes of them being alive. Because if they don't learn how to run, they have a higher risk of dying from bears, from wolves, from whatever the hell can kill a baby deer, which on the baby deer term is a lot. So that's kind of how I saw my son since the day he was born, kind of like this baby deer. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't teach him to run. It's just biologically not possible. But I can start shaping his mind. And I want to say now, 14 years later, with having all the opportunities that he's having in life and all the schools and being accepted to a bunch of school programs and a bunch of opportunities that are being granted to him, I feel like I did a pretty good job. Not perfect. I feel like I did a pretty good. Me and my wife did a pretty good job of raising a pretty good kid. Again, my opinion. But you know, I always kept it real with him, and if he was old enough to ask the questions, then he was old enough to get the answer. That's the way I viewed everything. You know, he asked me about condoms, I think when he was like 6 or 7, maybe even younger, and we explained to him, like, I don't think he grasped the concept of what a condom is used for. But again, if you're old enough to ask the question, you're old enough to get the answer. You know, you're just gonna get a different version of it. Not a lie. You're gonna get the 100. You're gonna get the 100% absolute truth. But I have to format it. I have to format the answer in a way where a little mind can at least try to comprehend. You know what I'm saying? Like it's different, and that's what people need to realize. Like, don't lie to your kids. Be honest with your kids, but you're gonna have to format the answer in a way they can understand it. You can't use big terms because they're not gonna understand the big terms. You gotta try to simplify. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, you know, I'm always real with my kid, and I always tell him, you know, like, be real, be who you're gonna be. And that's who he's become. And I respect that. But as parents, and I think we all develop this as parents because it is a part of life. You know, as kids, we grow up and we're saying, hey, when you grow up, you're going to be able to make the rules. And we do. We make the rules. When we have our own kids, we make the rules. We make the rules of how our kids are going to be raised, what we're going to expose them to, what we're going to do, what we're not going to do. And again, there's other things and within that little parameter that I would like to touch on in future episodes. And a lot of them are going to be my opinions, and a lot of them are going to be based on science. But we're not talking about that right now. You know, but like I always tell my kid, you know, keep it real, you know, do this, blah, 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 you know. So about like 2-3 weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, I got a call for a job opportunity. I was given the chance to present myself. I was asked to do a particular thing. It's a very, very simple thing. And I completely bombed it. Completely bombed it. You're talking about it now. Anyways, I completely bombed it. I did not produce what was asked of me. I overthought the entire process, completed and produced something that was not asked for. And it cost me that opportunity. Before any of this went down, I talked to my kid. Like, hey, I'm doing this. I don't know if I should do it, blah, 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 blah. He told me, Dad, I don't think you should do it. And he gave me a reason why. And then again, I had my opinion and I overshadowed his opinion because I had parent brain. I mean, what the fuck do you know? You just a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't think about it like that in that harsh terms, but looking back on it, that's kind of, I think, the way that it felt and it feels. I don't know if that's the way it felt to him, but like looking back on it, like I can see that being how a kid would take it, because I think that's the way I would have taken it. I'm trying to tell you based on my experiences. Yes, I'm only 14 or whatever the case would have been, you know, when it was happening to me. That if I'm telling you something, you don't listen to me, then, you know, like, you must think you know better than me. And so, you know, and that's not what happened. That's not what I wanted to do, but I think that's what ended up happening. You know, but he tells me, hey, Dad, don't do it. You know, he kept it real with me. Straight out. Real. Like, straight. Told me, hey, don't do it because blah, 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 blah. I didn't think anything of it. I just, like, I kind of shoot on my side. Told him, like, this is the reason why I'm doing it this way. Got me. You know what I'm saying? I didn't listen. He called me out on it. I didn't listen. At the end of the day, my opinion was worth shit because I lost the opportunity. I don't even know if an opportunity like that will ever come around again unless I try to make it happen my own, which I am doing. Um, but I blew it, and my kid called me out on it, and I ignored him. You know, and it was in that moment where I told him, and I was disappointed, and he asked me about it because he knew, like, I had told him the schedule of like when everything was supposed to come down and happen, and I told him, and I go, hey, you know, I messed up, I blew it, man. Like, and he was super sweet about it too, man. That's why I love my kid. He was super sweet. You know, he gave me a hug and he just held me. He was like, I love you, Dad. It's, you know, saying, don't worry about it. You know, I love you. It's okay. You know, and I was like, nah, man, I blew it, man. I blew it. Like, I can't believe I didn't, you know, like, I can't believe I did this. I blew it. Like, I was so upset with myself. You know, I didn't really talk to him. And then, like, later on, I saw him again. And I felt like I let him down. Like, breaking everything in my mind of what led to the decision. You know, like, I couldn't fault the people for making the decision they made because they asked me for something that I didn't complete, that I didn't produce. They asked me to do something and I didn't do it. So that was my fault. So, you know, like, that had me overthinking, overanalyzing everything. So when it came down to it, I was like, he called me out. And I had, you know, like, after everything, even before I had seen him, I even had texted my wife, like, hey, I blew this opportunity. Like, even, you know, even our son, like, told me, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. And I didn't listen, like a dumbass, because I thought I knew better. Because I'm grown. I can do whatever the fuck I want. You know, you can't tell me nothing. And again, it didn't come out that harsh, but I can see myself as a kid taking what I told my son in that way. You know what I mean? So, like, at the end of the day, you know, like, I broke everything down, and I was disappointed. I go up to him and I hug him. I hold him. I'm just disappointed, you know. And I just hold on to him, and and I told him right in his ear, I go, look, you were right. I'm 36. My son is 14. I hugged him, I held him, and then I told him, you were right. He looked at me like I was stupid. Like, what do you mean I was right? And I was like, you kept it real with me, man. You told me, don't do this. You told me, hey, I went through this experience, and this is how it kind of planned out, and this, and that. And, you know, like, you told me, and I didn't listen to you. You know what I mean? You kept it real with me. After everything that I've told you about keeping it real with people and doing everything else, you kept it real with me and I ignored you. And that's my bad. That's my fault. As your dad, that's my fault. I should have put a little bit more thought into what you were telling me because you were being real with me. So I told him, like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, man. I messed up. And he was taken aback a little bit. I saw it in his face. And then I told him again, I was like, hey, look, man. I know that I didn't listen to you. But how this works between me and you is we never stop being real with each other. If I feel you're doing something wrong, I'm going to tell you. As your father, I'm going to tell you. You don't have to listen. You don't have to like what I'm telling you. You don't have to approach a certain situation in the way that I'm telling you. I'll just keep it real with you and tell you how it is, and you determine what actions you want to take. But that's not going to stop me from keeping it 100 with you. Now, vice versa, I'm asking you to do the same. I know I didn't listen this time, and I told him, like, I know it's not going to be the last time I don't listen to you. Because we're two different people. We're going to approach things in the way that we want to approach them sometimes, regardless of what people tell us. But regardless of how many times you don't listen to me and I don't listen to you, hey, let's keep it 100 between us all the time. Because I got people who will keep it 100 with me, right? But I don't see them all the time. So I told him, like, you keep it 100. I might not listen to you all the time, but just keep it 100 and don't stop keeping it 100 with me. Always be honest with me. Always tell me the truth. Tell me what you think. This is the only way that I'm going to grow as a person still. Thinking about the times that my 14-year-old, 13, 15, 16, however old he's going to get and give me advice, like this is the only way I'm going to learn. Is that if I make a mistake, who warned me about these things? Who told me about these things? Hey, who told me it was a good idea and it wasn't? And we can learn off of each other's mistakes so we can enjoy each other's successes. And as a parent, I think sometimes we forget the other part of the equation, the other part of what makes parenthood work a little bit. We talk to our kids and we tell our kids, I'm telling you this because the world is real and this and that. Yeah, the world that we grew up in is real. And the world that we experienced is real. But at the same time, that world has changed. We cannot give our kids advice all the time based on the way that we think the world is now, based on our experiences, because it's not the same. My parents tried to raise me in a certain way, in a certain lifestyle, or just with a certain mentality, and not all of it worked all the time. Basically because they grew up in a different world. They grew up, they grew up in El Salvador and Guatemala respectively. My dad from Guatemala, my mom from El Salvador. They came here and they immigrated over here. So for them, the world worked in one way. You work hard and you work all the time. And you would achieve whatever you want to achieve. And they were trying to give me advice growing up, and I listened to like 60% of what they told me. And that's my fault as a child, as a son. And I see that, I see what they were trying to tell me now at 30 something years old. Everything that my dad told me, or at least a lot of what my dad told me, I see now. But at the time that he was telling me these things, they didn't make sense to me because the world that I was living in was different than his world. And that's kind of how this is now. Like, I tell my son about things that I did, or things that happened, or the way that I accomplished things, or the struggles that I had to deal with growing up. First of all, brown, and then second, like, in neighborhoods that weren't great. I mean, they weren't bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not talking like I grew up in Watts or South Central or anything like that. Like neighborhoods that are known to kind of be ultra violent, or at least not an overly safe place to grow up. You know what I'm saying? But you still go through some of the bullshit, racism and everything else. Some of that doesn't, like, it still exists, but it's not the same. In the late 80s, early 90s, like, you couldn't even say that you were gay. The acceptance for you being gay, whether a man or a woman, was very low. The tolerance for that type of lifestyle, for that decision, or for that natural biological feeling of love for somebody of the same sex for you in a sexual way, in a wife and husband way, was nearly non-existent acceptance. Doesn't matter what color, what race you were, it was nearly non-existent. And now in 2000s, 2019 now, we look at it as just a normal part of life for the most part. You still have those people who are like, gay is wrong. And look, man, you're going to love who you're going to love. You know what I'm saying? But the acceptance for that, compared to like the time that I grew up in, is like 1,000-fold. Like, you can come and be like, hey, I'm gay. Most likely than not, I'm like, oh, damn, okay, cool. You like other women, you like other men, whatever the case may be. The acceptance was higher. So for us to try to raise our kids on the perception of what we had our world in compared to how it is now, we have to adjust. And the way we adjust that, the way that we are able to learn, is that we speak to our kids, and we take the experiences that they are going through, and we try to adapt them to meld with our experiences. That way you come up with a plan or a new concept that makes sense in today's world. And I think sometimes as parents we forget about that. We forget that our lives were our lives. Our parents' lives were our parents' lives. And our kids' lives are their lives. If our kid comes up to and says, "Hey, I don't feel good. I feel stressed out. I feel tired. I feel this. I feel that." And your first reaction is, well, what do you have to be stressed about? What do you have to be depressed about? What do you have? You get to do this and you have this life and this. No, don't do that. Don't start comparing yourself to your kids, because it's not their fault that the life that you may be providing for them is better than the one you had. I do tease my kid about that, because he gets to do things that I never thought that I would ever get to even experience myself as a kid. And secondly, that I would never be able to afford these experiences for him. You know what I'm saying? So I do tease him about it a little bit. It must be nice to have parents that did this for you. And I didn't have a bad childhood. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't great. It wasn't fantastic, but I didn't have a bad one. And even the parts that would be considered bad. And I got stories about that shit too. You take them as learning lessons, and that's kind of how it evolved. But you know what I'm saying? Don't ever compare yourself to your kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, my kids, I'm tired, I'm stressed, and like, if you look at my kid, this is what my kid does, and he does more than this, but this is what my kid does on general week. This is what he does. He goes to school 5 days a week. Wakes up at 6:30, at the house at 7, has to be there by 7:45. Goes through his daily school, kills it. GPA is rocking around somewhere like a 3.78, 3.73, somewhere around that area. He's been rocking that, pretty much since they were giving out letter grades. He's been rocking an above 3.65 GPA. His standardized test comes. Most topics, he's in the top 90th percentile or the top 10 percentile, however they do the whole thing. Like, he's at the very top. He always exceeds a lot of the averages and most of the topics that he takes a test on. He's usually achieving above the average, like way above the average. And then at the other one, I can't really remember what his weak, I think it's like history, that's like his weakest one. He usually tests around the average. So he does that. He goes to TGR twice a week minimum when we sign him up for classes. He'll be there from after school until a little bit after, like almost like the evening pretty much. He does that twice a week. Then he does jazz band. He does marching band. He does band. He does performances. He still has golf tournaments on the weekend. Sometimes he has golf tournaments within the week. He has golf lessons sometimes between, he'll do Wednesday and Thursday. He'll do Wednesday and Friday while doing TGR Tuesday and Thursday. So like the last 4 days of the week, he has something after school. So he's not getting home until 6:30. Mondays are usually a day where he does a lot of homework and doctor's appointments, whatever the case may be. Come the weekend, he might have performances for jazz. He might have performances for band. He might have to be somewhere for the school on Saturdays. Lately, he's been having tournaments Saturdays and Sundays for the golf. Where basically, it's all day events or all day, like treks to get him to where he needs to go to his tournaments, come back home, do everything else. Like last weekend is a perfect example. We took off. We left the house at like 6 o'clock to be there at 6:30 because he had a tee time at 7:30 for his first tournament, which was 36 holes. After that was over, and he placed third, which was awesome. After that tournament, we literally had to just race to the next event that started at 2:30 when we had just left the other place at 2. And then he scored third there again, but we didn't get back home until like 6:30. So literally we were out in the streets doing golf related things for 12 hours in one day. Then he still had another tournament the next day. So when he tells me he's tired, he's tired. You know what I mean? Like, I'm tired just like having to hear this, but he's tired. You know what I mean? Like, Never once I told him, what are you tired about? And this. And I'm like, dude, if you're tired, you have a right to be tired. If he tells me, oh, I don't feel good, Dad, I feel sad. Never once, once. But I've seen this in a lot of parents. Never once I told him, what do you gotta be sad about? What you sad about? You just a kid. You got a computer, you got this, you got that. What you gotta be sad about? Your life is great compared to my life. No, I've never once told him that in his life. If he's sad, what's wrong? Why are you sad? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to see my kid sad. I don't even give a fuck why he's sad. I don't want to see him sad. I don't care how old he is, how old he's going to be. I don't want to see my son sad ever. And there's something that I can help him not be sad anymore. I want to help him not be sad anymore. Yeah, and that's and I think as parents, a lot of the times we disregard their feelings. We don't empathize with our kids. We don't sympathize with our kids. Because we have provided them with a life, for the most part, we have provided them with a life that's way better than the one that we thought we had as a kid. Again, I didn't have a bad life. But when I look at the opportunities that my kid has had and the things he's been able to do in the 14 years of his life, I go, man, this kid is lucky. I wasn't this lucky, but at the same time, I wasn't putting in the effort that he's putting in on anything that he does. I didn't put in the effort in band. I didn't put in the effort in school. I didn't do any of this stuff. So he deserves these opportunities. He deserves every single opportunity that he gets in his young life because he's worked hard to be presented those opportunities. So he's, in a sense, he's already worked for the life that he's trying to live for the most part. You know, some opportunities are given to him by me and my wife because we feel he deserves them because he puts in the work. And I think he has a great life. I hope that he thinks that he has a great life. But if he's sad, if he's depressed, if he's angry, if he's something other than happy, I want to know why. So we can work on making him happy again. I don't want to disregard his feelings because his life is better than my life was at his age. I don't want to start drawing comparisons of what the fuck you gotta be sad about, what you gotta be depressed about. Look at everything that you have. Look at everything that you're gonna do. Yeah, like that's awesome. Doesn't mean that he's gonna be happy 100% of the time. He's still going through stuff. I'm not with him all the time. My wife is not with him all the time. You know what I'm saying? There might be something that just struck him wrong, and then we need to find out what's going on there. And at the same time, like, you know, not everything that he's sad about is going to be valid. Not everything that makes him sad is worth being sad about. And that's something that we need to discuss as well. I mean, if it's going to make him sad, it's going to make him sad. Like, I don't want him to stop his feelings, but at the same time, I don't want him to be affected by things that he, either one, he can't control or just a natural part of life and are going to happen. You know what I'm saying? But if you automatically disregard their feelings as, why do you have these feelings? Then you're never going to find out why. You're never going to develop a plan for him. So where does that leave him? In the future, that leaves him with, who the fuck is going to help me? You know, like if he's 18, he says he wants to go away to college. So if he's 18 in a different state, he feels depression. He feels sadness. He feels emptiness. He feels something. If you disregard those feelings, those emotions when they're young, they're going to feel guilty about feeling that way and not seek out the help, not ask for the help that they need to feel better. And a lot of the times that's what leads to, or at least this is my assumption, I don't really know, that's what leads to kids and young people committing suicide, is that they don't know how to deal with those emotions because we don't teach them how to deal with those emotions. Because the times when they were growing up and the hormones and just general feelings of growing up were coming out, and we disregard those feelings, they feel invalidated. They feel like they shouldn't have those feelings. They feel guilty for having those feelings. And all of a sudden, those feelings are evil to them. Those feelings are not to be accepted. So if you feel that and your parents shoo you away, where do you expect to get this help? You know what I'm saying? If you don't get that from any type of parental figure, and the one thing about my kid that he's very, very fortunate is that we literally have a village that can help raise him. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to like gaming, PC, and just we'll talk real talk, real man talk. You know, he's got me. You know, if he needs a little bit more softer approach, if he needs to know how to feel, how to not let shit bug you all the time, you know, he has my wife, and my wife is with him all the time. You know, she's a stay-at-home mom, which is cool, which is awesome. I'm glad that it's worked out in that way where he's been able to have his mom with him. That's something that not a lot of kids get to have, and I'm glad it worked out. But besides us two, he has three godfathers and 4 godmothers. He's only been baptized once, but that's the way this all broke down. You know, my best friend is one of them. He's an Army vet. He has a different perspective of life. So if he I've told him this, like, hey, if you don't feel like you can talk to me, talk to your mother, go talk to your Nino. You don't feel like you can talk to him, go talk to Uncle Howie. You don't feel like you can go talk to Uncle Steve. Go talk to Grandpa. You know what I'm saying? If you feel comfortable with somebody else in the family that's grown, that you feel like, hey, you want to talk to them, go talk to them. Go talk to your Uncle Carlos. Go talk to your Auntie Carol. Go talk to your Nina Evelyn. Go talk to your Nina. Go talk to your Nina Yessie. You know what I'm saying? Like, go talk to these people. Go out there. Somewhere along that line, and the reason why those people are a part of his life is because they will hear him. They will provide that help. And it's the same thing with their kids. If their kids ever need anything from me, shoot me a holler. We'll talk. I'm going to give you a perspective in life. You know what I'm saying? But it's going to be a little bit softer maybe than you feel what you're getting from your parents. And that's why, and that's important for a kid to have. I feel that's important for a kid to have, and we should work on that. Don't be so quick to invalidate your kid just because we provide them with a better life than we grew up with. Because what that teaches them is that feelings don't matter. That empathy is stupid. The sympathy is stupid. That caring for somebody is stupid. And none of that is stupid. That's the way the world should work. You should care about somebody else besides yourself. You should look to see how you can help somebody in your life if it's within your means to help them. So you make the world a better place. But if all you do is invalidate your kids every time they have a feeling, it's like you invalidate them. And I think at a certain point that catches up with somebody. It doesn't matter how much success they have, they just never feel like it's enough if you do that to them enough times. So when you keep it real with your kids and you ask them to keep it real with you, keep it real. But remember, keeping it real works both ways. And if you tell your kids, hey, keep it real with me, then you get mad and invalidate them every time they want to keep it real with you, then you're not keeping it real. To be honest, you're being a bitch. And you're being a bitch to the most important person in your life, or the most important people in your life. Honesty works both ways. You can be angry at what people have to say about you. You can be angry at the honesty people throw your way. But you have to learn to accept that feedback and learn from it, adapt from it. And if people are wrong, people are going to be wrong. Even your best friends can be wrong about you. Even your family can be wrong about you. But in the nugget of what you feel is a lie and not truth, there's going to be some truth in there. That's the part you need to abstract and learn from, adapt from, move forward with. And all this starts at a young age. If you didn't get it as a kid, but you can see it now as an adult, teach that to your kids. Don't withhold it from your kids because it was withheld from you. That doesn't help anybody. That's keeping it 100. Keeping it 100 is not shoving your perspective down your kid's throat, down your kid's eye holes. All right, so that's it. That's episode number 1. Again, this is just kind of like therapy for me. This is kind of me sharing my opinions with the world. And if you care enough, thank you. If you don't, but you listen for a little bit and then you're just skipping forward to the end, thank you. Again, if there's something you want me to touch, if there's something you want an opinion with, if there's something that you would like to discuss with somebody and you feel like you can't find a right board for it, I'm not saying I'm the right person, but you never know unless you try. So if you want to reach me, Mo Banter Podcast, MoeBanterPodcast @gmail.com, so you can reach me. If you want me to talk about something, I'll talk about it. If it's something that I can fit in or something that I can actually have an opinion about. If not, I'll be like, hey, this topic I really don't know. Hope you get, whatever the case may be, and maybe I can point you in the right direction. But yeah, this is episode number 1. Thank you guys for listening. It won't be the last episode, and I'll see you when I see you, and I hope that is soon. Bye, everybody. Thank you.